Welcome riders, Ryan here with Richardson Motorworks again. Today we're going to show you how to replace your chain and sprockets, some things you should look out for when doing so, some things you don't want to do, and a couple tips and tricks to kind of help you speed this process along, hopefully. First and foremost, if you don't have one, go and get yourself a chain brake tool, press tool. Motion Pro makes an awesome one. That's what this one is here. Comes with all the pieces, comes with some awesome instructions as well. I've never used anything other than Motion Pros. It's just the best in my opinion. And the pictures in here and everything are perfect. You can't really get any better than their description on how to do it. Other than that, a few things before we get started here to kind of help you. Luckily this bike, the shifter and the rear set is kind of behind the front sprocket. On a lot of bikes, this is almost right on top of it. And so you have to take your shifter and stuff off to get to this. Now I'm telling you that because when you want to remove this nut, you're going to want the bike in gear. It's not going to, if you have the bike in neutral and go to remove this nut, it's just going to spin the gearbox and it's never going to come off. So you want to have it in gear to remove this stuff. However, when you go to put your new chain on, you're going to want it in neutral. So just keep that in mind that to start, you're probably going to want it in gear to get some things off, but then you're probably going to have to put this half back on, so to speak, to put it in neutral so that you can get your new chain on. So keep that in mind. Another couple things to keep in mind, it's sometimes easier to break your rear sprocket nuts loose while it's on the bike like this. Put the bike in gear. You can only usually get to one or two of them at a time, so just like pulling the clutch. Move it forward, get to one, let go of the clutch, you can loosen one, pull on the clutch, move it again, get that one. Easiest way to do it. You can always do this with all this stuff off, however it's just a little bit easier to do it like this. Otherwise you might be hanging onto the tire trying to break one loose and it's just a pain. As well, another thing I want to point out is your front sprocket here. There are lock tabs. There's usually a washer behind it with some lock tabs to hold the nut in place. Always make sure you bend one of those back to hold it in place. And most importantly, this nut on this front sprocket. Sometimes the torque on these is insane, 200 Newton meters or more. I know it's a pain to get on there. I know that it's not the easiest thing to try and get on just because of what it is. However, it is very, very important that you tighten it to the proper spec. There are a lot of bikes, like for example, BMW's S1000RR, that this nut, the torque on it sets the end play for the gearbox. So if you do not have this nut tight enough, your gearbox actually moves a little bit and you will just destroy it if it's not tight enough. So very, very important that this goes on to the proper spec when you get to that point. Another thing to mention, when you put these nuts back on, a lot of these are one-time use. You're supposed to replace them. I always put just a little bit of blue Loctite on them when I put them back on, just to make sure they're on there snug and they're not coming off. But replace these. They say too they're one-time use. Even the brand new ones, I put a little bit of Loctite on when I put them back on. Just a good habit to get in, and they're not coming off that way. Other than that, if it were me, I would just cut this chain off. However, I'm going to show you how to break it with a tool, just since I know most of you don't have a compressor and a grinder. Makes your life easier, but I'll show you with the tool. And other than that, those are the biggest. Oh, when you take this chain off, don't throw it right in the trash. You'll need to count how many links it is so you can trim your new one to size. 99% of them do not come, trimmed to a length you need it. And I just say that because I always cut this off, excited to get it off, throw it in the trash, and then 20 minutes later I'm digging it out of the trash to count the links for this one. So just hang on to it for a minute. Now, if you are changing the teeth, like if it's the stock teeth is 45 on the rear, you want to put 47 or 43 or whatever, you can certainly do that. Same with the front sprocket if you want to change the tooth on it, go faster, get more top speed. You can certainly do that, but keep in mind, if you do that, it changes the length of chain you need. You can Google what the formula is for, if you go up 2 teeth in the rear, you might need 2 extra links. I'm not sure. I always keep it stock because you can get a little bit out of it, but this isn't a race bike. You're not going to notice a whole lot in my opinion, so I just keep it stock. But do keep in mind, you're changing the teeth on either sprocket, it will affect how many links your chain is, so you need to look that up. You can't just wing it, or you'll be all the way to the end of your adjustment and it just won't work out well for you. Other than that, I'm going to go ahead and get started here. I'll show you a few things kind of as I go, and we'll go from there.